Right.
All right. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Love is the law, love under will.
Welcome to Sekhet-Maat Oasis Qabalah 101 class. I'm Frater Audo, and this is Soror Luz-y.
Okay, that is my cue, I guess. Welcome to our Qabalah 101. This is a free class offered by Sekhet-Maat in Portland. A suggested donation of $10 will help us to continue our mission into future events and to getting some temple space, and we're allowed to have in-person meetings once again. If you are a fan of Sekhet-Maat content, please subscribe to our channel. If you like this video, like it, and hit the bell so you can get notifications on our new content that is uploaded weekly.
Yes, some other little disclaimers. Pronunciation and placement of correspondences. I might pronounce something different than what you do. You may say things, you might even have different correspondences for something I said. That's kind of the nature of the beast. And don't let it offend you. But if it is, that's your will. That's for you to enjoy. And but I don't claim to be a master of anything. I am a student right along with you. And I just have a love for the Qabalah and the arts. And this is one of my favorites. So welcome. All right, tonight is the 24th path, the imaginative intelligence, the path of Nun. Nun connects Tifereth to Netzach. So the sphere of the sun to the sphere of Venus. The sphere of the holy guardian angel to the sphere of our desire nature. A term in some circles is a Christ consciousness, as Tifereth is found in Tifereth. Your elevated sense of yourself, your ruach, is centrally located in Tifereth, and it is made up of the other spheres going around it of Chesed, Gebura, Hod, and your mileage may vary if you include Yesod, but Yesod is part of that as well. But some people keep that separate as that being more of the animal nature, the nefesh, as opposed to the ruach. So right off the bat, your mileage may vary on what I say. So let's see. The 24th path of the imaginative intelligence. And it is so called this because it gives likeness to all the similitudes which are created in a like manner similar to its harmonious elegancies. And that was from Westcott. The Kaplan translation, Kaplan is more of the scholarly Hebrew translation. He's, I believe, a rabbi as well. So slightly different, and Westcott is coming from the golden dawn of yesterday, time gone by. But definitely a big part of our tradition, and that's why I include them both. And this is the apparitive consciousness. It is so called because it provides an appearance for all created apparitions in form fitting their stature. And I read these, and it's Sekel Dem Yone is what that translates. That's the Hebrew that is the title of this path. Both of those are tough to take meaning out of. I mean, they're meant to be kind of like koans where you meditate on them for quite a bit of time, and then you draw conclusions out of it. You get little peeps of inspiration or understandings of a deeper meaning of the path or of the letter itself. I encourage you to if you want to meditate on either one of those, take out the card, read that passage, and just sit and see if anything comes up. It's a unique experience. Anytime, any of these things, these are tools in order to expand our consciousness. They're tools to deepen our understanding of what that symbol is. It's purely a symbol, an aspect of our consciousness. So the more ways we can integrate it into our daily life, the better understanding, the better our ability to communicate with our different forms of consciousness directly with our subconsciousness and our higher nature. When we are getting input from above, possibly our HGA or the whatever term you may want to use for that, inspiration, your highest self. We need a language to communicate because, and we have it, it's through symbol. So the better we can learn, the more we can impress the symbols into our consciousness, the clearer the communication can be. So it joins the 6th and the 7th. Nun itself, its value is 50. When we start talking about gematria, the letter Nun is 50. As a final, it's got 2 forms. So if you find Nun at the end of a word, just like when you're spelling out Nun, that would be Nun, Vav, Nun again, and that would be drawn as a final letter. And I don't know if I included one Nun final in this, or maybe actually when we do the tarot spelling, I think it might be in there, but it looks like a Vav. You can confuse it with a Vav really easy, but the big difference will be that the tail of the letter goes below the line where the Vav stops even with all the other letters. So the final letter would be drawn like a long Vav, and its value would be 700. So Nun spelled out would be Nun, Vav, Nun, which would equal 756. But if sometimes gematria, you basically, you make it to work a lot of the times, actually, you can spell things how you want, and you can play with it in order to fit what you're looking to explain. Doesn't take away from the system, it actually increases the system if you can manipulate it in order to get an understanding of it or a way you want to present something. So sometimes you won't see them use the final letter or as a final. It would just be the 50 again as the Nun. So that's part of the confusing and fun of gematria. So Nun itself translates to fish. The Phoenician letter, I think, is where it came from, may have meant serpent, and both of those work out really well for what it represents astrologically. It's one of the simple letter, or it's a sign of a zodiac, and those make up of the 12 simple letters, and this one is representative of Scorpio. And Scorpio is, its element is water, and it is ruled by Mars. The mystic number is also 300. Let's see. And also it's a fixed sign of the zodiac. So it is very stable. It's a very stable sign as far as what it's very comfortable in its nature. And that would be water. So even though you assume it'd be kind of fiery, but that makes up a lot of that. It comes from what its rulership is, and that's from Mars. So plants that are representative of this, real and imaginary, are cactus, nettle, and hound's tongue, and Artemisa. This is a genus of plants with over 200 to 400 known species. The most common and one that we use is in brew and whatnot, if you were more herbally inclined, is mugwort, wormwood, and sagebrush. And kind of notice that the one is cactus, and the reason being, because you look at all those spines and those things that can sting you. So you can really see where that plant is easily associated with the sign of Scorpio, that prickly nature. And let's see. And it's the night house, so it's a yin sign as well, or a feminine sign of the zodiac. Thank you. Animals that are real and imaginary: the serpent, the scorpion, the beetle, lobster, crayfish, wolf, shark, and reptiles. Speaking of Wolfie, so lines up to stones, snake stone, bloodstone, obsidian, and turquoise. Didn't have much luck trying to find a snake stone. Maybe that's the idea. I don't know. But some people have said it was possibly something they used to work on snake bites, or I'm not certain what it was going. So what you got there is the blood or the obsidian and the turquoise, I believe, in the pictures. So the smell or the incense is a Siamese benzoin. I guess it smells like a really, really nice vanilla smell, and a Poponex. And I didn't find a description of that one. In the human body, the Scorpio nature is represented in the intestines. The diseases that may appear with that nature are cancer. And then the lineal figure, or the geomantic symbol. This time we have the geomantic figure of Rabius. And again, I'm going to step aside and let Soror Luz-y talk about this.
Okay, Rabius. The key word is passion. Its color is red flecked. Its planet is Mars. Its sign is Scorpio. So it's really easy to see how this image fits in with the Path of Nun. It is said to be strong in the 8th house and weak in the 2nd house of the zodiac. The symbolic, it is symbolic of passionate energy, symbolizing, which symbolizes the language of the heavens, meaning that in our world of Asya, this energy is intoxicating. The doorway to finding the joy in our experiences in life. It can be challenging at times because of the passion and fierceness associated with this figure. The old texts have a saying about this figure: good in all that is evil, and evil in all that is good. I find this to possibly be a bias towards evil and good. In our tradition, save me from evil and from good is a common principle of Thelema. I would suggest reflecting on the figure to determine your own association, like Dan was saying, or Audeo was saying, that, it kind of gives it that extra emphasis or significance when you personalize your associations and correspondences. To me, Rabius, it seems to me from birth we've been taught these ideals of good and evil, but as practicing magicians or just responsible adults, really exploring these natures, not from judgment, but of consideration. Libre in line 6 says, "Be not hasty to condemn others. How knowest thou that in their place thou couldst have resisted the temptation? And even were it so, why shouldest thou despise one who is weaker than thyself?" And for me, this really puts things into perspective about working with energies we may have been taught to believe are insidious when they are mostly misunderstood or have not been repurposed to be devoted to the higher. This figure's intoxication, debauchery, and violence suggests that its energy can be vastly misused and has a bad reputation. When intention and mindfulness would serve them well with working with Rabius, it is unfavorable in most questions, but favorable in questions that involve, sorry, my notes are being covered up here, sexuality, intoxicants, and violence.
All right.
Back to Audeo.
My turn again. All right. So you got two pictures there. One is Babylon, and the other is Mars. Mars being the ruler of Scorpio, and yeah, and I wanted to include the picture of Babylon in there. Sorry about that. That picture is painted by Gnostic Saint William Blake, a Gnostic saint of our order, back in 1809. So now we have the divine names, Elohim Gabor, and you'll notice that you've seen that 3 times already. Once during Aries, once during the Tower, and now again for Scorpio. There again, all because of, that's actually the divine name of Qabalah itself. It is Mars. It's the divine name of Mars. And since Mars rules all of those, that is, well, Mars is actually the planet represented by the Tower key, but it rules Aries and Scorpio. Aries being the day house and Scorpio being the night house. I think it was Matt out of TOTS, the Temple of the Silver Star, and he joked about the fact of the Aries is, if you kind of think of those two natures, both being Mars, so both being warlike, but one being Aries comes in, which I can relate to really quite well. If in the middle of a fight, just comes straight at you, just swinging and grabbing things and coming right at you, where Scorpio lets you be angry and then stays inside, and then at the night makes up a nice poison for you and gets you when you're not looking and takes care of it like smartly, or with great ingenuity, if you will.
Grace and tact.
yeah, grace and tact, as opposed to like a bull in a china cabinet coming at you, you know. So I thought that was funny and really a good example of it. Again, we'll find that there's another divine name because this is a zodiac sign, and this is one of the 12 permutations of Yod He Vav He, and this is Vav He Yod He for this permutation representing Scorpio. The archangel ruling it is Barkiel, and the angel ruling, so that's the archangel, and then the angel itself is Susiel, or Susel.
And actually, I realized I made a mistake. It's Vav He Yod, and
It is.
And I mistakenly did not fix that, so I apologize for that.
Luckily, I think we're going to make it either way, but thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, of course.
Good thing the notes are in 2 places.
Yeah.
The ones you can't read because I scribbled them, and then the ones that are on the screen. All right, getting back to it, sorry. So the legendary orders of beings is the Lamé or Liame, and that is a serpent-styled goddess. It's feminine in nature, and it is like a scorpion or like a serpent. And so right away, I couldn't find anything referencing this, but I thought of Medusa, you know, like how she was a serpent and then had all of them coming out of her hair. But I don't know if that was what she was supposed to represent, but reading what Lamé was, that was the first thing that came to my mind. And Sphinx and witches are the other legendary. The specific heaven of Asia is Koreb, and that is just Hebrew for Scorpio. Now we're going to get into the Pantheon, basically the gods. So Egyptian is Merti, goddess, Typhon, Apepe, Kefra, Thelemic deities specifically are Hadit in Babylon. That's also the picture there, a representative of there. She's got a couple of more ways to represent her, but that's a common one there. For Greek, you've got Ares, Apollo, and Pythian, and Thanatos. Roman, Mars and Mas. Hindu, Kundalini. All right, and the magical formula is Om. It's basically an extension of the Hindu Om, and then Crowley added and took the M away and then added MGN to it, and I can read it, but I may as well just let him explain it to us. It's a short blurb. I'm going to read us right out of book 4, talking about, because this is the magical formula and something that we should look at. So again, book 4
of the Big Blue Brick.
The Big Blue Brick, Abba, the Magic in Theory and Practice. It should be profitable to make somewhat detailed study of the strange-looking word Om. For its analysis affords an excellent illustration of the principles on which the practicus may construct his own sacred words. This word has been uttered by the Master Therian himself as a means of declaring his own personal work as the beast, the logos of the aeon. To understand it, we may make preliminary consideration of the word which it replaces and from which it was developed, the word Om, A-U-M. The word Om in sacred Hindu mantra, which was the supreme hieroglyph of truth, the compendium of the sacred knowledge. Many volumes have been written with regard to it, but for our present purpose, it will be necessary only to explain how it came to serve for the representation of the principal philosophical tenets of the rishis. Firstly, it represents the complete course of sound. It is pronounced by forcing the breath from the back of the throat with the mouth wide open through the vocal cavity with the lips so shaped as to modify the sound from A to O or U to the closed lips, which becomes M. So that's just simply like stating like the wide mouth and then coming down to the final. So in theory, you were making all of the sounds that can be made by pronouncing Om. Nature as proceeding from the free and formless creation through controlled and formed preservation to the silence of destruction. The three sounds are harmonized into one, and thus the word represents the Hindu trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and the operation of the universe of their triune energy. It is thus the formula of the Manunatra, or period of manifested existence, which alternates with a prolyo, during which creation is latent. And that's often described as the breath. So that there's that pause in between the breath, and that is the breath of creation. And so it's usually when the universe goes into nothing. But analyzed Kabbalistically, the word is found to possess similar properties. A is the negative and also unity, which concentrates it into a positive form. A is the Holy Spirit who begets God in the flesh upon the Virgin. According to the formula familiar to the students of the Golden Bowl, A is the babe in the egg, thus produced. The quality of A is thus bisexual. It is the original being, Zeus, Oronthelius, Bacchus, Diaphanous, and Baphomet. U or V is manifested Son himself. Its number is 6. It refers therefore to the dual nature of the Logos as divine and human, the interlacing of the upright and the averse triangles in the hexagram. It is the first number of the sun, whose last number is 666, the number of man. The letter M, the termination of the process, it is the hanged man of the tarot. The formation of the individual from the absolute is closed by death. We see accordingly how Om is in either system the expression of a dogma, which implies catastrophe in nature. It is cognate with the formula of the slain god. The resurrection and ascension are not implied in it. They are later inventions without basis in necessity. They are described indeed as Freudian phantasms conjured up by the fear of facing reality. To the Hindu, indeed, they are still less respectable. In his view, existence is essentially objectionable, and his principal concern is to invoke Shiva, to destroy the illusion whose thrall is the curse of the Manvanatra. The cardinal revelation of the great Aeon of Horus is the formula of Om does not represent the facts of nature. The point of view is based on the misapprehension of the character of existence. It soon became obvious to the master Therian that Om was inadequate and a misleading hieroglyph. It stated only the part of the truth, and it implied a fundamental falsehood. He consequently determined to modify the word in such a manner as to fit it to represent the arcana unveiled by the Aeon on which he had attained to be the Logos. The essential task was to emphasize the fact that the nature is not catastrophic, but proceeds by means of undulations. It might be suggested that Manvantra and Pralaya are in reality complementary curves, but the Hindu doctrine insists strongly on denying continuity of the successive phases. It was nevertheless important to avoid disturbing the Trinitarian arrangement of the word, as it would be done in the addition of other letters. It was equally desirable to make it clear that the letter M, an operation which does not actually occur in nature, except as the withdrawal of the phenomenon into the absolute, which process, even so understood, is not a true destruction, but on the contrary, the emancipation of anything from the modifications which it had mistaken for itself. It occurred to him that the true nature of silence was to permit the uninterrupted vibration of the undulatory energy, free from the false conceptions attached to it by the Amkara, or ego faculty, which assumption that conscious individuality constitutes existence led to consider its own apparently catastrophic character as pertaining to the order of nature. A little bit left. The undulatory formula of putrefaction is represented in the Qabalah by the letter Nun, which refers to Scorpio, whose triune nature combines the eagle, the snake, and the scorpion. These hieroglyphs themselves indicate the spiritual formula of incarnation. He was also anxious to use the letter G, or Gimel, another triune formula expressive of the aspects of the moon, with further declares that the nature of the human existence in the following manner. The moon is in itself a dark orb, but an appearance of light is communicated to it by the sun, and it is exactly this way that the successive incarnations create the appearance of consciousness. The moon is not altered by her phases, just as the individual star, which every man is, remains itself, irrespective of whether the earth perceives it or not. Now it happens that the root of Gimel Nun signifies both knowledge and generation combined in a single idea in an absolute form, independent of the personality. The Gimel is a silent letter, as in our word, gnosis, and the sound of Gimel Nun is nasal, suggesting therefore the breath of life, as opposed to that of speech. Impelled by these considerations, the Master Therion proposed to replace the M of Om by the compound letter of Mem, Gimel, and Nun, or the English letters MGN, symbolizing thereby the subtle transformation of the apparent silence of death, which terminates the manifested life of Vav, by continuous vibration of an impersonal energy of the nature of generation and knowledge. The Virgin Moon and Serpent, furthermore, operating to include the idea of a commemoration of the legend so grossly deformed in the Hebrew legend of the Garden of Eden, and it is even more malignantly debased falsification in that bitterly sectarian broadside, the Apocalypse. Sound work invariably vindicates itself by furnishing confirmatory corollaries not contemplated by the Kabbalist. In the present instance, the Master Therion was delighted to remark that his compound letter MGN, or Mem Gimel Nun, constructed on theoretical principles with the idea of incorporating the new knowledge of the Aeon, had the value of 93, Mem being 40, Gimel being 3, and Nun being 50. 93 is the number of the word of the law, thelema, will, and of agape, love, which indicates the nature of will. It is furthermore the number of the word which overcomes death, as members of the degree of MM of the OTO are well aware. And it is also that of the complete formula of existence as expressed in the true word of neophyte, where existence is taken to import the phase of the whole, which is finite resolution of the Kabbalistic zero. Finally, the total numeration of the word Om is 100, which as initiates of the sanctuary of the gnosis of the OTO are taught to express the unity under the form of complete manifestation by the symbolism of pure number being Kether by Ike Bakar, which is the Qabalah of 9 chambers, another game to be played with Gematria. Also, Malkuth itself is Malkuth multiplied by itself and thus established in the phenomenal universe. But moreover, the number 100 mysteriously indicates the magical formula of the universe as a reverberatory engine of the extension of nothingness and the device of equilibrated opposites. It is moreover the letter Kuf, which means the back of the head, the cerebellum, which the creative or reproductive force is primarily situated. Kuf in the tarot of the moon, a card suggesting illusion, yet showing the counterpartial forces operating in darkness, and winged beetle or midnight sun in his bark traveling through the nadir. Its Yetziratic attribution is Pisces, symbolic of the positive and negative currents of the fluidic energy of the female Ichthys or Pesce and the female Vesica, seeking respectively the anode and the cathode. The number 100, therefore, is the synthetic glyph, the subtle energies employed in creation and illusion or reflection of reality, and we call the manifested existence. The above and principal considerations in the matter of Om, they should suffice to illustrate to the student the methods employed in the construction of the Hebrew or of the hieroglyphs of magic, and to arm him with the mantra of terrific power by virtue whereof he may apprehend the universe and control in himself its karmic consequences. So
That's a lot.
that's a lot for but I think it's very I mean, it explains why he chose to change it, and it seems like it's fairly sound reasoning.
One of the things I liked about it that I kind of got from the reading was that it's the formulation of the A and the U and then the G N, like when they are separated, when you put them together and you're saying it in that moment, you kind of have the beginning, the present, and the future all in like one sound. Is kind of something that I gathered from that, which I thought was kind of cool.
Oh.
Sure.
Cool. Thank you. That was a lot. Thank you for sitting through it, everyone.
Yeah.
So the magical weapon is actually the pain of the obligation or the oath. This symbol, I would encourage everybody to further their studies in the OTO, and you learn more about this glyph as you go along. It's the symbol of initiate of the OTO, and it's clearly designates that you are moving along this path. There's a lot of really beautiful symbolism stored in this. So, and there's a couple of oaths you may have to go along if you decide to follow this path. So, not saying it's painful, but there's your mileage may vary, I suppose, on how you look at these things. But I suppose so the magical power itself that you would that is represented by Scorpio. Sounds dark, necromancy, but it's really, that's kind of an old technique that is passed on in a lot of old grimoires. And it purely means divination through deceased entities, like basically trying to make contact with those that are no longer on the physical plane anymore, is a simple definition of necromancy. Mancy being like a divinatory process, and the necro being not on this plane any longer. One that is commonly referred to is when LeVay did his working where he evoked Apollonius Tyaneus, and that was in theory the only one he ever really did fully. Suppose that's the story anyways, but it's a very common one and often represented of necromantic activity. So in alchemy, the death card represents putrefaction, the sign of itself, Scorpio. So, and so there we have the card representing it, which is titled Death. But if you think about it, like that putrefaction, you can certainly see that as death, but other parts of us see that as life, because if something has to decay, our body breaks things down that way. It rips things apart, and quite frankly, some things do decay inside of us, and it's certainly that way if you think about compost and you think about the way soil is built up. There's so in respect, like death is life, and life is death. A lot of times people shy away from the fact of the title is death and try to make it something other than it is, but a lot of times it is symbolic of passing on, and it is symbolic of transforming in nature, but it can be as simple of marking the demarcation. One of the reasons that Scorpio is represented by a snake, an eagle, and a scorpion. The snake part of it is in Crowley's ideas, the best representative of Scorpio in the new aeon, because it's the understanding of death, that undulatory motion that I was just talking about when we were reading, is that life and death and life and death and all of those points in between, and realizing that life isn't up here and death really isn't up here. It's everything. It's that full cycle of the vibratory nature, that up and the down, and the positive and the negative, the good and the bad. All of those things are representative of this. So you look at that card, and there's a lot of things going on. It's a busy card. The headpiece is of a symbol of Osiris. You've got the scythe. In traditional tarot, they're said to that there is a twist in the skeletal nature, representing the Kundalini, and the fact of that we need to consciously make that sucker go up, and we need to put work in it to basically, instead of it just sitting down there and going out of our genital region, learn to direct that energy up. And in so doing, they used to put a twist in the card, in theory, in that skeleton. And I've stared at this one for a long time looking for that, and which I don't see, because it looked like all the spinous processes and everything are coming down it. I might be missing that, but I don't know. But there's certainly one part that's like way twisted around. And that's his right scapula. It's like completely upside down, and grabbing that scythe very oddly. It's literally completely upside down. If you know how the scapula is supposed to sit. It's not really looking like it's supposed to right there. Been a bad day if it had tendons attached to it. But you know, there's a lot of life in that card, even as it sits. So the transformations are there, the motion are there, the different stages of the scorpion are there, the eagle being the highest, the freedom, the knowledge of, basically the freedom of the knowledge of that cycle of life and death, not being attached to that any longer, is said to be where the eagle comes in to represent Scorpio. It's a highest, it's a sublimated nature, for what it's worth, at least. Anyways, the color scale. Getting into the color scales, we've got green, blue. There's the cool green blues in there. The queen scale is a dull brown. And then the prince scale is a very dark brown. And then princess is a dark, vivid blue. And again, we bring those up in order to, all of these things are good to memorize and good to have in your consciousness, because it's, again, how we communicate with our subconsciousness. And it's also how we use things to design rituals specifically. You'll want to, if you want to use the color theory, you're coming from the highest to the lowest in order to get it here.
And we have a question from Miri, I think.
Okay.
I'm sorry for mispronouncing that, but what's up with the fish?
Well, right away, the fish is literally what Nun is translated from. The Hebrew letter Nun means fish, but it also fits in with the card. The fish are very prolific, and they're very they keep on coming back. Fish are, there's a lot of, it's reproductive, and it's very, they're busy in reproduction, I guess is the best way to, what's that? Virile, yes, I suppose would be, but like they have lots and lots of babies, and so that process happens a lot quickly. So that's where the fish comes from.
Sexy fish.
Yeah, sexy fish. And also in what we were talking about when I was reading it, talked a little bit about the Vesica Pisces, and that the Vesica Pisces is the symbol of two circles coming together. And those two circles are said to be where these two things are creating that third. So it's the generation of positive, negative, and then the son, or the father, mother, son, or father, and then it's father, mother, son is what it's representative normally, and then being that's why a lot of times in Christianity it was representative by the fish. That's the same idea where that's coming from as well, is from that Vesica Pisces or the fish bladder, and then took it to the fish, and it kind of looks like one when they draw it out, but it's really representative of the two circles coming together. So this is Nun spelled out, and I just thought it's really interesting how it brings the life, goes through life, and then it shows life living to its highest. That the Hierophant can be our HGA, our inner teacher, the inner wisdom. So through the death and that transformation, we get to our highest nature. And then where do we end up? We come back down through again, and only to do it again. So it's really representative of death, of what it shows, but not the negative death, the death that is seen as just a cycle of life. And it's just part of it, whether we attach to it or not. We all get to it eventually, and we all have loved ones that leave us, and it's painful, but they move on, and so do we. And then people are born. It's really, it's amazing. It's a beautiful thing, really. So through death comes life, comes death again, is the little one-liner, is what I came out of for looking at that spread. The esoteric title of the death card itself is the child of the great transformers and the lord of the gate of death. Not the most positive, but the child of the great transformers is. And it's, you know, it takes the breaking down in order to build something new. It takes the, you got to clear the space in order to give the new tree that room to grow, and that's part of it. So.
We have in chat, Dave says, Nun Vav Nun equaling initiation. Vav is guarded by death on both sides. So I thought that was kind of a cool like interpretation of the imagery.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, there was just a silly check.
Cool.
From 777.
Right on. Thank you. Yeah, and I like that. And also, we've got in the Scorpio, we've got the 5, 6, 7 of Cups representative of the different deacons of Scorpio. And not all of the very pleasant imagery. And, you know, kind of just offhand, you would think it would be, because 5 is Geburah, where Mars is really comfortable. And 7 is Venus, where Scorpio, Venus and Scorpio. And then you have the sun for the 6 of Cups, you've got, since it's Tifereth, it's the sun. And since it's the 5, you've got Geburah. And for the 7s, it's coming from Netzach, and that's its aspect in each of those realms. I'm just going to read a little quick bit.
From Lon's Understanding Aleister Crowley's Tarot. So with the 5 of Cups, with this card, the Suit of Cups takes a dramatic and sinister turn. This is very disappointing because the 5 of Cups had so much going for it. Discarding the configuration of the Golden Dawn model that displays 5 empty cups arranged as a square with 1 cup in the center, Crowley and Harris arranged her cups as an inverted pentagram, symbol in this place of the triumph of matter over spirit. What is it that turns this card sour? Mars rules Scorpio and is very happy to be there. Not only that, all this is in Geburah, the hometown, the sphere of Mars. So where's the problem? The problem stems from the fact that Mars is too happy to be here. He gets himself too excited to indulge in foreplay. This makes Scorpio nervous. He ends up prematurely blowing such a fiery blast onto the relationship that it retards what might have otherwise been the slow process of passionate decay that Scorpio uses to devour and liberate her lovers. Who among us cannot understand this? Water no longer pours into the cups. The lotus blossoms have been completely blown away by the hot martial wind that has turned the sky red. The sea is now a stagnating pool. Now we can see where the earlier small cards in the suit were taking us. Love leads to abundance, which left uncontrolled leads to luxury, which left uncontrolled leads to decadence, boredom, frustration, and disappointment. See chapter 20 for the general divinatory meanings.
And what was the title of it?
And the title of this one is Disappointment.
All right, thank you.
Okay, sorry. The 6 of Cups, which is pleasure. Balance returns to the suit of the 6 of Cups. Pleasure finds a most delightful home in Tifereth, the sphere of the sun. The 4 and 5 cups seem like bad dreams, probably brought on by consuming too much rich food and wine. And we now awaken to a giddy realization that we are the card that is in direct reflection of the Ace of Cups, of the Tree of Life. The sun is outrageously happy to be in Tifereth and shines with the double warmth and pleasure on the sensuous and fun-loving side of Scorpio. If this is the first card you draw in a tarot reading, you may want to stop right there and quit while you're ahead. This is a terrific card. Crowley agrees. Pleasure in the title of this card must be understood in its highest sense. It implies well-being, harmony of natural forces without effort or strain, ease, satisfaction. Foreign to the idea of the card is the gratification of natural or artificial desires, yet it does represent emphatically the fulfillment of sexual will, as shown by the ruling Sephira, planet, element, and sign. The sea is alive with the broad, gentle waves, and the lotuses actually dance, leaving stem trails of perfectly symmetrical patterns and arcs. Water is again pouring into the cups from the lotus blossoms, but as the cups are not filled, 4 of the cups are tilted and appear ready to fall, but they are pressed securely against the stems by the generous water pressure from above. And then the final card is the 7 of Cups, Debauch. Crowley is definitely not a fan of the 7 of Cups. This is what he says. This is one of the worst ideas that one can have. Its mode is poison. Its goal is madness. It represents the delusion of delirium tremens and drug addiction. It represents the sinking into the mire of false pleasure. There is something almost suicidal in this card. Just look at this card if you can. Yuck. What happened to all the great cup stuff higher up on the tree of life? Doesn't sexy Venus like to show off, and sexy Scorpio? She does. She likes to show off everywhere. Venus, however, is not well dignified in Scorpio and often embarrasses herself when she visits. You ask, shouldn't she be happy in Netzach, the sphere of Venus? She is. She's so happy she's making herself sick. This is much too much of what was once a good thing, and this low on the tree and this far off balance, there isn't a single influencing factor left to remind her the party is over. This card seems like the next logical step in the abundance, luxury, and disappointment sequence. 3 martinis is absolutely enough. 4 is the luxury of showing off. 5 is disappointing because you're not getting high anymore and you're just getting smashed. After 7, oh dear, the 7 of Cups is a stumbling dash to the lavatory just moments after you thought you were being irresistible to an attractive stranger. Thank you, Lon.
Yeah. And that was from Lon Milo Duquette. You know, we will read things like out of books because these are people who are much further along the path than us and acknowledge that fact and give them the props. And they say it a lot better than we can paraphrase it. So you're going to be, if you don't like it, there again, your mileage may vary, but we like it. So the final thing, we're about wrapped up. Delirium tremor. Okay. Yeah, it's usually bad when you're coming. It's when you're coming off of alcohol.
Oh, the DTs.
Yeah.
I didn't know that's what that stood for.
Yeah, definitely. And Joel Solvent et Coagula. So that would certainly be definitely seems like a representative of that card. Basically, the breaking down and then the reabsorbing, and then, but it'd be Solvate, Coagula, Solvate again. So, at least in my understanding, because it's representative of breaking down again, but there again, that's whole cycle being that. So I like it. Okay. It could be. Normally, I would have to agree. Then go now.
Okay.
All right. So those are the works cited. Basically, the one thing we didn't list in there, I do pull a lot of things right off of some works that the Temple of the Silver Star is putting out as well, and highly recommend you watching them. They have a Paths and Correspondences class that they have out on YouTube. It's really good as well. We don't really have an affiliation with them, but they are full of great contact, and a lot of our members are members of theirs. So for what it's worth, I wanted to make sure to give them credit as well. We're going to get started here with the Pathworking. You're going to be asked to present something in order to get access. That is a scarab, and it's a stylized version that Soror Luz-y kind of quickly made up today. So basically it's a little different. It's cool though. And so you'll be asked to present that during the pathworking itself with when a specific angel asks you, just show it. So other than that, if you need to go to the bathroom, you feel free to go to the bathroom real quick or just start getting comfortable. We're going to go ahead and Soror Luz is going to do a banishing for us, and then we're going to get started. So if you want to do your own banishing, or if you want to go to the bathroom, now's your chance, or whatever. But we're going to do this, and this goes out for everybody. Hey, and Wendy, that's your choice. Do your own will.
Should I go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. Auto, I was Melkut, Vegebura, Vegedula, Leolam, Amen. Yod He Vav He. Adonai. Yea. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai. Before me, Raphael. Behind me, Gabriel. In my right hand, Mikael. In my left hand, Audeo. About me flames the pentagram, and within me shines the six-rayed star. Auto, I was Malkut, Vegebura, Vegedula, Leolam, Amen.
Thank you. So get in a comfortable position, either lying down or sitting in a chair. Make yourself comfortable. Begin by taking a deep inhale and exhale with a little sigh. And again. Letting all the day's concern just kind of flow out of your body one more time. Now begin by taking another deep breath, but this time to an inhale of a count of 4. Hold that breath to a count of 4. Exhale to a count of 4. Stay empty for a count of 4. Inhale for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. Stay empty for a count of 4. Inhale for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. Stay empty for a count of 4. Inhale for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. Stay empty for a count of 4. Now just quit controlling the breath. Simply be an observer. Watch the breath go in. And feel the breath go out. The breath goes in. And the breath goes out. The breath goes in. And the breath goes out. The breath goes in. And the breath goes out. Now just silently observe that thing of the breath, watching it go in and go out. If your attention wanders, just bring it back to the breath. Let your breath anchor this experience. With your eyes closed, you begin to formulate the astral temple of Malkuth, intoning the divine names of Adonai, Haaretz, Sandofan, Hashim. Sandalphon appears and you exchange the sign of the enter, and she gives you the sign of silence. And she asks why you have come to the Temple of Malkuth. And you hold up the scarab amulet. She escorts you quickly to the portal of Kuf in the southeast of the temple and up the 29th path of Kuf, the temple to the Temple of Netzach. Leaving Sandalphon, you enter the fire temple, giving the projection sign. Once inside, you give the sign of silence. The seven-sided temple draped in green silk meets your eyes. Once again, you notice the ruby figure of the heptagram inlaid in the emerald ceiling. In the center of the heptagram is the symbol of Venus. The central altar, surrounded by 7 emerald columns, is also made of ruby. It is topped with roses and a cistern. You announce your presence in this temple by vibrating the divine names and calling forth its inhabitants. Yod-heh-Wahi Sabaoth, Hanael, Elohim. The archangel Hanael appears, a winged feminine figure in robes of green chiffon with a red heptagram emblazoned on her chest. She addresses you. Behold the abode of the imaginative intelligence and the emotional mind. By what symbol dost thou enter herein? Once again, you raise the symbol of the scarab. Satisfied, Hanael takes you to the southwest of the temple and draws back a portion of the green drapery to reveal a blue-green archway bearing a white letter Nun on its keystone. Within the archway is a veil with the tarot image of death painted on it. The archangel traces the symbol of Scorpio in the air before the archway, and the veil fades into a mist. In its place is a door carved of snakestone. Holding up the scarab amulet, you trace the figure of the letter Nun before the door, which dissolves. Stepping through the portal, you enter the 24th path. A sunlit landscape greets you. You hear the voice of Hanael. She speaks to you. From the center outward, so moveth the point as it traceth the line and the cross. Equated and equilibrated lie the 4 elements if the body of Osiris slain. May the corrosive cross return upon itself from without inward, from the 4 quarters to the center, and become by sacrifice and transmutation an offering acceptable, a body glorified. You now find yourself standing by a river, the mighty Nile, flanked on either side by vast areas of fertile fields. Bare-chested peasants work in the field, walking behind simple plows pulled by oxen. The fields are crisscrossed by a grid of irrigation dishes. A well-tanned man stands on the riverbank near you using a vice called a shaduf, a long wooden pole balanced on a crossbeam with a rope and a bucket on one end and a heavy counterweight on the other. The man pulls on the rope to lower the bucket into the river. He uses the counterweight to raise the bucket and pour the water into the walled irrigation ditch. The golden disk of the sun is high overhead, and its light is reflected off the smooth limestone edges of a pyramid in the distance. A path leads through the papyrus reeds that hug the riverbank, and you begin to walk along this trail, although tall river plants obscure much of your view. The trail winds and twists through the towering plants, but at length you come to an area where the plants have been flattened to the ground in a large circle. The clearing is surrounded by foliage. It seems to be a secret place, completely concealed from the outside world by thick river grasses. Standing before you in the clearing is a radiant goddess with dark brown hair and skin, wearing robes of white. She wears a black nemes surmounted by the symbol of a house and a basket. Two majestic wings adorn her graceful shoulders like two crescent moons. She is very beautiful, and her eyes, brown eyes, reveal a calm, passive exterior superimposed over a powerful interior mind. The figure stands before an ornate wooden chest or coffin. The lid of this chest is shattered and it appears to be empty. The figure speaks. I am the lady of the house, the goddess Nephthys, mistress of the gods. I am the sister of Isis, the queen of heaven and Osiris, the justified one. I am opposite of my sister Isis in every way. She is of light. I am of darkness. She is the goddess of life and birth. I am the goddess of death. She is the day. I am the night. And yet we are inseparable as the two pillars. We are the two halves of one soul. My spouse is the evil god Set, the sworn enemy of Osiris. I am bound to Set by marriage, but my heart and my loyalty belong to Isis and Osiris. I aid and serve them to the best of my abilities. I am a friend to those who are deceased. I care for the dead in the underworld, and I assist the dead when they rise to new life and resurrection from death. The goddess then asks you why you have come to this place. You hold up the scarab amulet. The goddess continues. Oh, the beetle amulet is sacred to the sun gods who lend their protection to the one who possesses it. It is placed in the tombs of the dead as a symbol of rebirth in the afterlife. It is well that you possess this symbol, for this is a difficult path. Those who tread on it run the risk of disintegration. The key here is not death, for everything must die. The key is resurrection from death, and that is something that is earned through discipline and work, not through blind and passive acceptance of one's fate. If you wish to learn, then listen. The dark goddess parts the wall of the grass with her hand. Through this opening, you see a great palace carved from the sandstone which sprawls across a cliff overlooking the Nile. The edifice of the building seems to flow directly out of the rocky hillside behind it. Numerous columns of varying shapes and arrangements are carefully integrated with dozens of statues and relief carvings of the gods. It is a marvel to look at. Behold, the temple of Osiris, king of the Abydos, god of the grain and lord of all earth, Nephthys declares. It was here and where the great god Osiris first established law and order over all of Egypt. And it is there that he was foully betrayed and murdered by my husband Set. Nephthys continues, my brother Osiris was a great and wise king. The land of the Nile Delta flourished under his rule like never before. He civilized the people and gave them the code of laws to live by. He taught them the arts of husbandry and taught them the proper religious rites for honoring the gods. So good and gentle was Osiris. He was loved by foreigners as well as the children of the Nile. Even the barbarians of other lands worshipped the very ground he walked on. While Osiris was away civilizing the people of different lands, my sister Isis ruled in his stead. But my husband Set was extremely jealous of his brother Osiris and schemed of ways to take his throne. Unlike Osiris, who was well loved, Set, the god of the inhospitable desert, was feared by the people, while Osiris was known as the beautiful. Set was despised for his looks, for he had the head of an ass like a beast with flattened ears and red hair and pasty white skin. In league with the queen of Ethiopia and the 72 other conspirators, Set hatched a plan to kill Osiris. He ordered that an ornate wooden chest be made to fit Osiris's body exactly. When Osiris returned to Egypt in the 28th year of his reign, Set invited his brother, the king, to a great feast. Against the advice of Isis, Osiris attended the banquet, for the god of good feared no evil. After the banquet, Set ordered the beautiful wooden chest, richly carved and ornated with jewels, brought into the palace. Feigning a jest, my husband suggested that the chest should belong to whomever could fit into it. Several guests tried to climb into the chest, but could not fit. At last, Osiris, unsuspecting of betrayal, laid down in the wooden box, and it fit his body precisely. In an instant, Set's followers were on him. They nailed down the lid of the chest and poured boiling lead over it to seal even the tiniest of openings. The elaborate chest had become the king's coffin. And wicked Set and his companions then took the chest from this place and cast it into the river where the Nile meets the sea. When my sister, the goddess Isis, heard of the tragedy, she was stricken with grief. She cut off a lock of her own hair and dressed herself in the black clothes of mourning. Well aware that the dead cannot rest until the bodies have had a proper burial, Isis set out to find the body of her dead husband. She searched up and down the length of the Nile, asking everyone she had chanced upon whether or not they had seen the wooden chest. None were able to help her until she reached the delta where the river meets the sea. There she happened upon some children who told her where the chest had been cast into the river by Set. Consulting an oracle, Isis discovered that the chest had washed ashore near the city of Byblos of Phoenicia. There it rested for a time amongst the branches of a tamarisk bush. The vitality of the divine body inside the chest caused the bush to grow rapidly into a mighty tree, which enclosed the coffin entirely within its trunk. King Melitharsis, ruler of Byblos, and his wife, Queen Astarte, were impressed by the beauty of the magnificent tree. They ordered it cut down and brought to the palace, where it was made into a pillar to support the palace roof. All the while, within the pillar was hidden the chest containing the body of Osiris. Disguising herself, Isis went to Byblos, where she became a nursemaid to one of the royal princes. One night, Queen Astarte interrupted Isis in the middle of a ceremony that would have given the young prince Maneros eternal life. The goddess then revealed her true identity to the astonished queen and told the sorrowful story of her quest for the body of Osiris. Isis begged that the pillar that supported the palace roof might be given to her. Her request was granted and the pillar removed carefully. The goddess opened the pillar, removed the coffin, and held the body of her beloved. Isis cried so loudly that one of the young princes died from terror. And my sister took the coffin by sea back to Egypt. All the while, Isis has searched for the body of Osiris. The evil god Set assumed the throne of Egypt. Under his rule, the people suffered greatly. Misery and injustice became the law of the land. When Isis returned, the followers of Set pursued her, driving her to seek refuge in the swamps in the papyrus reeds of the Nile Delta. Isis came to the very spot among the thick papyrus reeds to hide the chest containing the remains of her royal husband. And this is the chest you see before you. But the thought of her child, Harpocrates, Horus, the child whom she had left in the city of Butu, weighed heavily on her mind. She left the coffin in a secret hiding place and went to find her son. But another tragedy would soon occur. See for yourself in the recent past. Nephthys waves her hand in front of your face, and the scene in front of your eyes change. You are standing in the same clearing, but it is now nighttime. And the goddess Nephthys is nowhere to be seen. The ornate chest is still there, but its lid is whole and unbroken. The full moon hangs in the sky, lending its illuminating rays down into thick papyrus reeds. You become aware of a rustling sound. Someone or something is coming up the trail. Your sense of apprehension increases as soon you see the source of the disturbance. A creature emerges from the wall of grass, standing upright like a man wearing an Egyptian-styled kilt, and that being before you holds a hunting spear in his hand. His head is that of a strange beast with a curved snout. The ears atop his head are well pricked up, but the tips are curiously flattened. A mane of bright red hair running from the top of his head to the nape of his neck stands in stark contrast to the pale, colorless skin. It is Set, the god of the destructive desert wind. Realizing that he has stumbled across Isis' chosen hiding spot, the evil one grunts with satisfaction. Raising his spear, he smashes through the lid of the wooden chest and casts it aside. Lifting up the body of Osiris, he roars with delight as he tears the corpse to pieces with his bare hands. Then the god, maddened with hatred, flings each piece, 14 in all, into the river to be devoured by crocodiles, depriving Osiris of eternal life. The pieces of Osiris are scattered like the grain to the wind. Witnessing this atrocity, you are momentarily lulled into a kind of passivity. As if your mind had been dulled or shocked by horror into a state of casual acceptance. It almost feels as if Set had flung pieces of your body into the Nile. Just then you feel someone shaking your shoulders, telling you to come back. Instantly, it is daylight. You look up and see the darkly beautiful face of Nephthys. I thought I had lost you, she says. Now you know what evil deed Set has committed, but now is not the time to give up your will and to leave your fate in the hands of the gods. Listen, my sister comes. You hear the sounds of someone coming up the path through the river grasses. The great goddess Isis comes forth into the clearing, her form clothed in robes of blue and white is beautiful beyond description. She is the fair-skinned twin of her sister Nephthys. The lunar crescent and the solar disk surmounted her golden headdress. When the goddess of heaven sees the empty wooden chest with its crushed lid, she cries out a wail of sorrow that pierces you to the core. Nephthys informs her of Set's despicable deed. We must find all of my husband's remains and give him proper burial, says Isis. My son Horus will deal with Set at the appropriate time. The two goddesses set out and find the body of Osiris and you follow them. At the bank of the river, they climb into a sacred bark, a ship made of papyrus reeds. You climb in with them and sail down the Nile in search of the scattered fragments of the divine body. For their part, the crocodiles of the Nile refused to eat the flesh of the god of Osiris, and so the pieces of the body were carried by the waters of the river and cast upon the banks. Several days and nights pass. Although time seems irrelevant, as your companions proceed down the river, the watchful Isis, ever at the ship's bow, and the faithful Nephthys at the stern, both scan the shoreline for pieces of the body. The bark stops in several places wherever a piece of the corpse is discovered. In Hermopolis, 2 feet are found, in Sais a hand. Other parts are found in Coptos and Hermopolis. In Heliopolis, Isis finds the head of Osiris. She caresses the head, weeping as she stares into the lifeless eyes of the god. The search continues from the wide river delta of the Lower Egypt into the region of the Upper Egypt, where more parts are found near the southern city of El Fonte. Eventually, all of the body parts, with the exception of the phallus, are found. Isis commands the bark to sail down the river to a secluded island. The body of Osiris is then taken to a hill on the island, where the work of embalming may continue in secrecy. There, in the center of a grove, the 2 goddesses reassemble the body of Osiris on a funeral bier. The bitter cries of sorrowful emitted by Isis and Nephthys reach the heavens, where they touch the heart of Thoth. The great god of wisdom, moved with compassion, Thoth and Anubis, the god of the dead, came down to aid the sister goddesses with the funeral rites, with Nephthys attending at the head of the bier and Isis at the foot. The work of embalming takes place. Anubis gently washes the divine body and perfumes it with sacred ointments. The internal organs are removed and placed in consecrated jars. Then the body is carefully wrapped in mummy cloth. After the body has been properly embalmed, Anubis steps back. Thoth, the first high priest of magic, then begins a ceremony designed to bring Osiris back to life. The ibis-headed god raises his hands and recites an incantation in a language that is unfamiliar to you. When he finishes, Isis, her wings stretching over the feet of the body, begins the following prayer. Ah, helpless one, asleep, behold, I have you. O great listless one, this is our brother. Come, let us lift up his head. Let us put an end to his woe. May the moisture begin to mount for this spirit. May the names of the rivers be created through you. Osiris, live. Let the great listless one arise. I am Isis, your beloved. The goddess Nephthys, her wings stretching over the head of the body, continues the prayer. I am Nephthys. I shall be that Horus will avenge you. It shall be Thoth will protect you. Osiris, live. The great listless one, arise, be completely restored. You will be opened the ways for the gods. You have confirmed your glory. Osiris, live. Let the great listless one arise. At this point, the great goddess Isis transforms herself into a white bird. With her wings, she fans the air, the nostrils of Osiris, restoring his soul to life. A golden halo of light is seen shining around the body of the god. Then the goddess returns to her station at the foot of the bier and assumes her human form again. It is then that Osiris, filled with renewed life, raises up from the funeral bier. His skin has become green, the color of the living vegetation. His aura shines like the giant sunlight on a diamond. The sister goddess bowed to him, for he has been completely transformed from a god of the grain and a king of Egypt to the high god of resurrection and of eternal life. He has become the greatest of the gods of Egypt, eternal and everlasting. Osiris, the justified one, has become the primary cause of human resurrection, capable of giving life and death, because he himself attained it. The god rises to his feet, holding the royal implements of the crook and scourge, the symbols of mercy and severity held in balance, and the Djid wand, the emblem of his own rebirth. The white stenu, the crown of the Upper Egypt, is on his head. Glowing with a renewed vitality, Osiris speaks to the assembly. I am he who was fallen and who was raised up. Whether I live or die, I am Osiris. I enter in and reappear through you. I cover the earth. I am not destroyed. I am the master of nature. I am the Lord of life, triumphant over death. Mine is yesterday. I know tomorrow. I am the reconciler between two lands. I have put an end to storm and confusion. I have put away anger, and I offer the prospect of eternal life. For I am Osiris triumphant, even Osiris Unothris, the justified one. I am he who is clothed in the body of flesh, yet in whom is the spirit of the great gods. I am the Lord of life, triumphant over death. Those who partake with me shall arise with me. I am the manifester in the matter of those whose abode is the invisible. I am purified. I stand upon the universe. I am its reconciler with the eternal gods. I am the perfected one. And without me, the universe is not. The sight of Osiris in his restored glory fills your soul with a renewed sense of devotion to the work of magic. You're grateful for having been allowed to witness the transformation of Osiris, and it gives you a feeling of comfort to know that everyone who strives for spiritual renewal may accomplish it if they truly apply themselves to the discipline of the great work. The resurrected Osiris continues to speak. Death is a mere word without any corresponding fact. Death means destruction, and nothing in the cosmos is destroyed. The cosmos is ever living and eternal. Long ago, when matter was not yet formed, it was in disorder. The bodies of the celestial gods keep without change that order which God has assigned to them. But in living creatures, the process of growth and decay is a remnant of disorder. The death of terrestrial bodies involves the dissolution of their composition. They are then absorbed into the bodies that are immortal. When this takes place, consciousness ceases, but life is not destroyed. Speak not of a man as perishing. Think what God is and what the cosmos is, and what is meant by a living creature that is immortal, and a living creature that is dissolvable. The cosmos is made by God and is contained in God. Man is made by the cosmos and is contained in the cosmos. And that is God, and that is the author of all, encompasses all, and knits all things together, including us. A bright light engulfs the god assembled on the island. In one glorious flash, they are gone. And you imagine that they have much to do in the coming days. Osiris must take his place in the underworld to guide the souls of the deceased to new life. Horus must be raised to become a mighty warrior capable of defeating Set. You contemplate the scene you have just witnessed, looking around this moment for a certain symbol, a sign, something that is just for you. Spend a moment to gaze around the landscape. Find something of meaning for you. Spend a few minutes doing this. Satisfied that you've received your information. Satisfied that you've received your symbol, your personal message. You gaze at the scarab amulet in your hand and decide that it is time to return home. Descending the Path of Nun, you first arrive at the fire temple of Netzach. The graceful Archangel Hanael greets you warmly. You thank her and descend the path of Kuf to the Temple of Malkuth. Sealing the portal of Kuf behind you, the Archangel Sandalphon invites you to meditate for a while at the central temple flame. Absorbing what you just experienced. When you're finished, salute her with the sign of the Emperor, and she answers with the sign of silence. Now give yourself the sign of silence to seal yourself back into your physical form. And wiggle your toes and touch your feet to the floor and rub your legs. Just going to come back. And do this, the quick form of the banishing Apolpontos Kakadaimenos. So that means that you're going to put your finger to your lips and expel forcefully, stating Apolpontos Kakadaimenos. Apolpontos Kakadaimenos. And then welcome on back. just to get the technicalities over again, remind you that if you can, make a donation, and that's where to do it. And if you like it, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube later on. And that was the Path of Nun. And a brother of mine joked about, I said we were going to be doing some nooning later, and he goes, well, nooning's fine, but I think a nooner might be better. But, mileage may vary with that too. But